Now, in our last session of the morning, we're going to take a look at what established corporations and industries can learn from entrepreneurs and startups when it comes to training in the workforce. And for that, I'm so pleased to welcome Dave Copps. Dave is the CEO of Brainspace, an artificial intelligence software company. Hi, Dave. Here, too, we have Executive Dean of Business at Richland College, Martha Hogan, and Candy Slocum of North Central Texas InterLink. That's a regional nonprofit that bridges the gap between business, education, and government. And of course, the Atlantic Steve Clemons is back for this conversation.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. So now we're going to talk about some crazy stuff. I want to start, I just have to say this. I'm probably going to get in trouble. But Dave, you kind of look like this hybrid to me and Leonardo DiCaprio. I don't know. I just can't get it out of my face. But I mean, it just. I think it's working for you. And you just remind me of something out of The Revenant. Have you met any bears lately?
I apologize to Leonardo DiCaprio.
No. But we're going to talk a little bit about workforce and the ecosystem here. I've just been spending a little bit of time digging into Dave Copps' website with Brainspace, and it's a fascinating journey that you've gone into. And I know many of you may not know, maybe someday you'll all know, but right now you may not know what his firm does. But it basically creates an artificial intelligence backbone to the way that he's got a line in there that they can go into a place with 1 million documents and essentially animate it and begin thinking about how things relate to one another within 40 minutes. So it's a remarkable, I just want to compliment you because for someone who knew nothing about it an hour ago, it really is a fascinating journey. And I guess because the way in which you've put together an algorithm to do something no one else is doing, you're doing it here in Dallas. How do you hire for that? Where do you draw people in from the workforce to come in and do that? Do you work with the other ladies on stage to find and prepare that, or do you draw people in from outside, or do they have to go to a special Dave Copps training camp?
Well, I think when you do what we do, there's not really a roadmap. Sometimes you're building technology and there's books about what to do. What we do, there are no books for it. So we make a lot of mistakes. People, initially it was organically, so finding mathematicians and growing them into AI, and I think, for us to grow as rapidly as we need to be growing, we have to look outside. We have to find more people. I think it's one of the big challenges in Dallas, not just Dallas, but I think every city in the country. We're having a real crisis, and how do we need to do a better job of kind of growing people into these machine learning. We need, and so I think Dallas is doing a pretty good job right now. Our universities, I see the coursework is changing, so we're even reaching back into middle schools, and we built a maker lab at a middle school, here in Dallas, where first graders are working with 3D printers, and so when you do things like that, I think you can set that foundation to grow the types of people we need to kind of take the city our.
Are you able to, you're sitting next to the university right here, so we're going to make you the university icon, Martha, for Richland College, but are you finding the university's responsive in terms of trying to design that kind of nimble workforce person in the IT area?
I think we're getting there. I'm really excited about some of the programs we're seeing, the professors that we're bringing into town. The UTD is doing fantastic things, SMU, TCCU, Richland. So I'm excited. College kids into the company over the summer, and even during the year, to try and help encourage that. I'm traveling out to universities and speaking. I want to create the awareness for this new technology culture that's happening in Dallas.
Right.
We're not the oil wildcatters anymore. It's we still have that go big, go home, big risk, big reward culture here.
I just learned that he drives a 1975 Cadillac Eldorado convertible with big longhorns on the front of it and collects guitars. It sounds cool and completely
The lesson there is don't go on eBay after 2 in the morning.
Martha, you're the university fixture here. Tell us how do you see this question? Because I think when we're talking about Dallas and city makers, what the stakeholders are and sort of thinking ahead, how do you think of your own role as a Dave needs in the future?
Well, we have a huge challenge. We're in a county that has a very high poverty rate. So it is to take the disengaged person who is probably late teens, early 20s, and that's not in school and not working, and but has a great deal of potential. And Counselor Dr. Joe May is passionate about that, and we're working very hard. And as it's been said multiple times, it takes a village. We're working with high schools and middle schools. We're working with the University of Texas at Dallas. And the other universities in the area. We're very fortunate that we can create a pathway and a pipeline for these students to succeed all the way through, whether it's to start out for a mid-level job, which requires more than high school, but not a bachelor's degree, and continue at a very low cost.
How do you do it, Martha? I mean, you just said something very profound. You're saying you're trying to take the disconnected student from some of the more resource-challenged communities and get them connected. Like, what's that process? How do you go find someone who's your target and somehow lure that individual in when they've got a rough shake from the rest of society?
It's a huge book. It's getting their children taken care of. It's getting them a way to get to work. It's getting them the social service that they need to stay in school. So we have to do all of those things to keep them to persist and to complete and get that job that they need to enter the middle class.
What's the best story you can tell me of someone who succeeded with what you've done?
Well, I think last night there was food in one of my rooms. Workers, their company had closed down and they found themselves without a job. And the Trade Adjustment Act provides benefits for them to come. So we started out with English as a second language and trained them in English so that they could come in. We actually did some training in manufacturing and manufacturing terminology so they would understand that. And if you're familiar, their first NIMS test, and out of 22, 18 of them passed. So they deserve to have food to celebrate.
Oh, that's fantastic. Did the 4 get another chance?
Yes, and 2 of them have passed. So we only have 2,
two more to go?
And they have 1 more chance. So we're hopeful. And then the rest of them are proceeding on to the next level.
That's fantastic. And if there, before you give your mic to Candy, we're sharing mics up here. If you were to piece that would make your role in the workforce ecosystem even better?
My missing piece is for people to really know about the community college and what the community college can do for the community. We don't have endless marketing dollars to shout out who we are. We have lots of opportunity for students, and it's that's what I want to do. I want to get that word out of what we can do for students and how we can help them and the community at the same time.
Candy, you are also, I mean, part of the design of this is we've got the entrepreneur, we have the training college, and then you're the backbone of other kinds of partnerships. Take us down that road.
Okay. I'm the executive director of North Central Texas InterLink, and since 1987, we have been forecasting the regional opportunities. And we take that information to our 133 school districts in this region, which is 16 counties. And they develop then career and technical programs. They used to call it vocational. It is not our grandfathers' and fathers' vocational education, let me tell you.
So let me just interrupt. So tell us what it looked like in 1987, and what does it look like in 2016?
All right. There were 24 organizations around the state that did this, and we're the only ones still remaining because we had a board of directors that had great insight and made us a nonprofit. And the school districts really bought into what we were doing. The reason for that was, back in 1987, imagine what school districts were teaching. In, let's say, the vocational, they were teaching upholstery, cosmetology, which they still teach, hospitality, which they still teach, but on a much higher level. And those were really the big career tech career programs. Dallas ISD had just started an incredible aviation program, which is now they would call avionics. So Dallas ISD really was one of the leading education in the nation. Today, they are teaching engineering, they are teaching architecture, construction, they're teaching healthcare in many, many areas of the health industry. They're teaching auto repair. Now, I'm talking about these young people can graduate with certifications, licensures. They can do dual enrollment in the community colleges and get credit. But I will tell you, this, like Martha says, the good things that are happening with education are often not even talked about. You probably don't not realize that in this marvelous area that we have here, in this region, almost every area in especially the city centers and the suburbs have these incredible programs. And what really makes area. So, we're graduating some of these kids. We talk about school to work. Some of these young people, one of the things InterLink does, one a year, because it's a big responsibility, we'll go into the school districts and we will do a review of all of their career programs. And we bring in industry practitioners, and they will be the ones that review each classroom program. And because they're teaching broad-based, and I'll give you an example, 2 examples. One was a large construction company, and they specialize in heating and air conditioning. And they said what the kids in the heating and air conditioning program know cost per person to go out and do a job. So they're understanding the bookkeeping, the finance, everything that has, that the company has to look at when they employ someone. The exact same thing happened with an auto repair, where they had an auto repair technician. And they're not called mechanics anymore, folks, because as you well know, those motors are high-tech engines run by computers. So we had an auto tech company come in and do the auto tech review because they understand billable hours. So these are the things they're teaching. It's an all-encompassing knowledge, and skills and knowledge are where it's at. Because let me tell you, it is really hard to do labor market forecasting now. Because we're looking forward. I will tell you, elementary schools today will enter occupations that we can't even dream what they are, and that is a given fact. In fact, one of the reports I have says in the next 10 years, 40% of the Fortune 500 companies will not exist.
You're just full of good news.
I know.
Full of good news.
But think about this. Opportunity for our young people.
Right.
That this and so it's skills and knowledge.
Right.
And it could be, let's take a child,
Yeah.
a student in hospitality. Those programs, the kids just love them. And I have people go, why do you have hospitality programs when we need engineers? Well, we have a lot of engineer programs, and we need more, obviously. But those kids are learning math.
Interesting.
It's applied.
Martha, I saw you were wanting to jump in there.
Well, I was going to talk about the what career and technical is now versus the shop class that was in my high school when I was there. Interactive simulation and game technology. And students come in there thinking they're going to play games. Well, there's not very much playing going on there. There's a lot of design going on. But when you think about gaming, it's not just shooter games anymore. Everything you do online is almost some sort of a game. We have manufacturing, and if you look at those machines, they're as big as my first apartment. They have a computer attached to them. It's not just running a mill or a lathe by hand. Electronics is part of what you're attaching to. That's what we do. We're doing all of the computer networking things. It is just way beyond. You don't say a machine shop anymore. It's a manufacturing lab.
Well, part of the question I have, and again, I became intrigued with Dave Kopp's website and the difference, not to get too technical, between document-to-document comparisons and document-to-word comparisons. See, I did read it. Wow.
You were deep.
And the whole notion of unstructured data and how to create a backbone through that's usable is probably a core element of the Internet of Everything world that we're going into, so that systems are talking to systems and there are people in it, but you've got just a very different world that's coming right at us. And coming back to Candy's point, it's hard to look at that, but you're going to have a very different set of realities that we're all in. And I guess my question is, how do you quickly move to create a nimble workforce in that sort of environment?
Yeah.
Dave?
Well, you're hitting on something that's really important, is that we are kind of on the verge of a real transformation, I think, in the world. Prior to the Industrial Revolution, jobs went way down.
Right.
But then they shot upward, and I think we're kind of approaching that again right now. And so we do have to do a lot of retraining. We have to look at our curriculums in our schools and look at the types of people we're putting in the market, and look at where the world's going to be in 5 to 10 years. Today doesn't matter, right? It's if you're in a school, or we're looking 5 years ahead, 10 years ahead. Well, if you're at a school, you're not. If you're a student right now, you're not working in the workforce. You're going to be there in 4 or 5 years, and then 10 years. So schools need to start thinking about, where's the world going to be in 5 years, 10 years? Well, the answer is technology is going to be everywhere. It doesn't matter if you're an automotive shop or IBM or Microsoft or Facebook. Technology is like oxygen today. It's everywhere. It's part of everything we do. We're all carrying around supercomputers in our pockets now compared to what was around the 60s. So it's we have to put a focus on technology and training our people to be where they need to be. It's like the Wayne Gretzky quote, right? We want to be where the puck's going to be, not where it is right now. We have to put our education, our focus on education, where things are going to be in the next 5 years, and that's going to be technology. In my world, it's AI and machine learning.
Let's have some fun for a minute. Let me allow you just to feel empowered to critique each other. Dave, if you were to try to tell Richland or InterLink how to do their job better, what would you have them do? If the mayor, I'm interested in the missing pieces. It's sometimes fun to talk about good stories, but if you're going to make progress, sometimes you have to take a cold look at what's not working. So what do you want more from universities? What do you want more from the kind of partnerships that Candy represents? And you can critique the mayor as well. Take on government.
Yeah. I think it gets back to, I want to have environments where kids can walk into. So let's go even below colleges, right? What are our middle schoolers and our high schoolers, what are they doing? I walk into some high schools now, they don't have technology labs. And if they do, it's a couple computers, and kids have more technology at home than they have in their schools. That can't be the way we grow our children. They can't leave home, come into a school, and feel like they're in a different environment than when they leave and they're now empowered to do all these things. We have to do a better job of funding our schools and make sure and people that are leaders, thought leaders in the areas where we need to be 5 years from now, and start to build the programs that build excitement around where we need to be 5 years from today. I think that's the world's different. You've got a Khan Academy now, and people, if you can't find it here, you can find it online. You can find it somewhere else. So
Candy, what do you want to tell the Dave Kopps of the world where to get off?
I want to tell him where to get on.
Okay.
I want Dave to spread himself so thin that all understand the opportunity they have with companies like you. And the mayor did say we've got incredible business education partnerships, but we do know, and you've talked about it today, one of the big weaknesses we have is some of our young people have never left their neighborhoods. They can't imagine what the future could be. And that's why we've got to pull them out of those neighborhoods into the business world to see opportunities so their minds can come alive.
His company's really cool. Great comment, Martha. Now I'm gonna let you be both the university and the government. So how do you like to critique the private sector public sector partnership lady here and our
I'm
guy
so
in the
glad
private
I'm
sector?
sitting in the middle.
I know, yeah. You really have the power. I just want you to know.
And as I said before, it takes a village. We have to talk to each other. And one of the things that we're looking that we need to do is to encourage, the university term for that is research. The elementary school and the middle school word for that is discovery. I was at an event with about 45 students the other day, and they were given 2 little pieces of electronic equipment with very little instruction and said, go forth and create. And it was amazing. We call those hackathons. It was amazing what those students with very little, they didn't know they were capable of doing that to begin with. So we've got to pull that down from the university level, the very high level, and let students discover what they're capable of doing, give them the materials they need to do that, and let them go forth and learn. They will if we give them the opportunity. And like I say, it's amazing to watch the sparkle come to someone's eye when they realize thing about, well, one of the really nice things about dual credit. You take a student and maybe put them in a word class that is a dual credit class, and then they go through those exercises, and then they realize, I've got college credit. I didn't think I could go to college, but I've got college credit. Wow. So the dual credit opportunity tells these students that never thought about college, never thought about that kind of opportunity, that I can do it, I have done it.
Fascinating. Candy raises black Brangus cattle and quarter horses. Maybe there's a college credit opportunity there somewhere in dual use. Let me open the floor to comments and questions. And you get a mic back, Lindsay. Here you go. We're going to now share.
Yeah, I'm Sandy Thatcher, I'm retired publisher.
Hi, Sandy.
Hi. Marco Rubio famously said that rather, the STEM fields and emphasize that, apparently without realizing that Carly Fiorina majored in philosophy and medieval studies at Stanford. Anyway,
I did not know that.
there's a raging debate now because a lot of governors are pointing everybody towards emphasizing the STEM fields. On the other hand, the liberal arts professors are defending themselves by saying, look, in a person's life, have 5 different careers.
Right.
And what's important is having people who are flexible and able to adapt to changes like that over the course of a lifetime. So they think liberal arts training is very important for that reason. So do you have any views on that?
So in a minute or so, could you solve the STEM versus STEAM debate?
I'm a STEAM person, so
Is there anyone who's not a STEAM person?
I don't know. You see, I hear a lot of STEM.
I mean, Marco Rubio is apparently not, but this question I want to just compliment you. It does come up a lot. I mean, there seems to be a view in some quarters that the reading, writing, arithmetic, kind of hardcore, very structured approach to education that excludes the creative class. Richard Florida, a colleague of ours at The Atlantic, has written a lot about the rise of the creative class and how vital it is to attract the creative class into cities. And that is not STEM, right? That's STEM. That's STEAM, yeah. So, Martha, you're looking skeptically. Are you a STEM person over a STEAM person? Maybe.
I was a math major in college. Every degree requires some what we call general education. And so we force students to be a little bit balanced. I have a son who's a civil engineer because they were graded twice. They were graded for engineering content, and then they were graded for grammar correctness. So I think it's mandatory. I had another son who took an English literature class in college, which he thought he was going to hate, and learned that he really loved it. So I think there's balance in everything, and you can't, in my opinion, exclude one for the other.
Candy?
Oh, well, I'll just say that now they're finding that in the mathematical equation. And they're finding with that the STEAM that adds the ability to learn those other skills. So,
Yeah, I think Apple, right? Steve Jobs studied lithography, and now we had the Mac. A high percentage of tech CEOs are Montessori graduates. I think to me that you can't draw the separation. In my business, developers, coders, there's a high correlation between people who write code and people who are musicians, especially like keyboard players. It's not an accident, right? It's the creative mind and how that works. I think our best-selling product came to market because one of my mathematicians was a fractal designer. And
it is interesting, some of you may know the company Square, that you can use your credit card on the thing. The guy who created that's a fellow named Jim McKelvey, who started out essentially as an artist blowing glass figurines, and tried to sell one of those to a woman who wanted to buy it in Brazil and couldn't figure out a way she could pay for it. That's where the notion came from for this. So sometimes it's disruptive thinking, and I just want to put that as a great question. And it was very interesting for me to learn that Carly Fiorina majored in what she did. I didn't realize. Yes, right here.
Drew Snow with Tech Titans. Just a comment to add to this. Mark Hurd, CEO of Oracle, was in about 6 months ago.
Right.
Talking about the global spend on technology is about $2 billion a year. $1 billion of that is from the business side, and 80% of that is just keeping the lights on, maintaining networks. The other $1 billion is from consumers, and he is looking from Oracle's standpoint. All of this driving innovation is in the technology world is consumer side. Right. So I think to the point of, and I happen to know that Dave's, as he describes, an anthropologist gone bad. So I think you have to have the ability to react to what consumers want, and those consumers are not necessarily coming from a technical background at all.
Right, fascinating. Any closing comments, thoughts on that, Dave?
Yeah, I think consumer drives a lot. I mean, some of us hear the term UX, user experience, right? Build it from the ground up and try to track people. Now it's, what is it that I want to create, and how can I work backwards towards the technology to create that experience for people? So, yeah, to your point, I think a lot of things are driven from the consumer right today.
Andy?
Yes, and I would just say you hit the word innovation, and that's what everyone is looking for today. Innovators, and these young people have to be allowed to think outside the box to be innovators.
And tell me just real quick, does a place like Dallas that has such a rich history but a complex, what innovation mean? Because innovation often means overthrowing folks and revolution and disruption.
Truthfully, I think the emerging generations are going to be very disruptive.
We're seeing that right now, I think, in the political process. And that's what gives me my great hope that America will still stay strong. Because when you're in the classroom, Martha said it, you see the light bulb go on in these kids' minds, and you can see that they will be. Just make one statement: get government out of the classroom.
Okay. Dave, can you get Martha? Martha, you're going to get the last word. Beat that.
I'm not sure how I can. We are now trying to educate what is called a digital native. We're all digital immigrants. Everyone in this room, we learn technology at beyond being children can do now. It's amazing, and we as a group, we need to catch up. They are going to pass us up. We need to provide the education that keeps them stimulated, keeps them learning. They're going to have to learn forever, and so we need to be on that track now.
I want to thank all of you for a thoughtful and edgy conversation. I felt very good about this. Please thank Dave Copps at Brainspace, Martha Hogan at Richland College. InterLink, good luck with the cattle and horses. And Martha, I know you're heading to Machu Picchu, so good luck on your trip. Thank you all very much.